do.
Ooh. Evening, folks. CZ Mavericks and Tricky Woo, Liam, Harold, Steve's firing me links across on the other thing. Heroes Sunglasses and Anglo-Saxon, Derek Thomas. So he knew. Chess Smash. We're waiting for a guest, folks. So, hang on, Max. So, waiting for our guest to come. He's usually 4 minutes late, so.
Yeah, so we're broadcasting, streaming. We're streaming. No, not broadcasting. We're streaming at the unusual time of 4 p.m. today to accommodate our guest, who is fashionably late.
Yes, I got a 24-hour ban yesterday from YouTube for hateful or something. Can't remember what it was. Hate speech or something. And all I had said was in a video of what's his name? Ethan
Winstanley.
About what a certain demographic of people do to people of the homosexual persuasion.
Homosexuals.
Yes. And factually correct, you know. And I got 24 banned for it. And they took his video down. So, Jizzy's back in the news again.
Yes, you call him Jizzy, don't you? Which I think is quite funny. I think that's what Angry Bootneck's doing right now. I think he's recording an exclusive podcast with Jizzy. That's why he's running late.
Yeah. Well, he was on with Piers Morgan, which was a complete shit show.
Car crash. Piers Morgan just absolutely. He had so much more he could. You know, did you see, like, he said the quiet part out loud? The Lotus Eaters covered it, but I spotted it myself when he just said the UK laws are a joke. You know, and he went to say something about I couldn't do this in America, but Piers Morgan, like, obviously being the fucking gobshite narcissist he is, cut him off, and they didn't get to obviously discuss that. You know, because in America, if you pick up the wrong person's dog and run away, you're gonna be turned into Swiss cheese. You walk into the wrong person's house and sit on their sofa and go, "Oh, is this the study group?" You're done. You're finished.
But
you're at the end of a 12 ball.
That stuff in England at the minute is all trickling across from America.
Yeah, it's all these what do they call them? These takeovers. Where they'll just, like, if someone's unlucky enough to drive down the street where the takeovers are, they just jump on their car and smash their windscreens in. Jump all over it.
You literally have young black men with a big petrol canister, but it's full of water, and they pour it over somebody's car. And the next minute, they pour it over the wrong boy's car, and he goes into the car and brings out a freaking gun. There's the man himself.
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Not too bad.
Hey, Matty. Right. So we speculated, but were you late because you were recording an exclusive podcast with Mizzy?
No. I have only interest in interacting with Mizzy if I run him over with my truck.
Well, apparently, Ragz was saying at the beginning of the stream he's back doing more of these videos. Apparently,
he'll get nicked, won't he? He'll keep getting nicked until they actually throw the book at him.
Well, he was arrested again yesterday.
Of course he was, because
he won't know, will he? Won't know, because of our two-tier justice system.
Yeah, and he knows it, so he'll keep on doing it until they actually do throw the book at him and he ends up getting nicked properly. And they lock the bastards up, won't they? It's their own fault. Again, you think you're doing them a favour, but you're not doing them a favour. It's like killing a kid with kindness. You think you're doing chavs a favour when you enable them to just go 30 years without working. Or you think you're doing your spoiled kids a favour when you let them eat chicken McNuggets and fucking donuts all day. And you're not doing them a favour. And you're not doing the black community a favour by treating them with kid gloves and letting them get away with fucking murder. So that silly bastard's going to keep on going until he massively takes the piss and ends up getting 8 years for something. And that's the fault of the state. It really pisses me off because it's always the fault of the state. When some poor bastard who would have been a perfectly productive tax-paying citizen for 40 years loses his temper and drives his fucking cement truck through a load of twats just to stop oil protesters in the middle of London, then the poor cunt will go to jail for 25 years. But if it wasn't for the state, he'd be a perfectly productive family man and a good member of society. They constantly drive people to criminality. They do it when they go soft on these people, and they do it when they tyrannize the populace and people lose the temper. And it's just more of the same, isn't it? Just more unending stupidity from the state.
Mm-hmm. Did you happen to see the exchange he had with Piers Morgan?
I only managed 5 minutes of it, and then I wanted to kill myself, so I didn't watch the whole thing.
Obviously, Piers Morgan had a chance to really sort of get to the crux of the matter. And like I was saying just before you come on, Mizzy even said, the UK laws are a joke.
Yeah, they
and
are.
he went to say something about American laws, but Piers Morgan shut it down.
Yeah.
But that would have been interesting to hear what Mizzy thought about what he could get away with in America, because he wouldn't get away with picking up someone's dog and running away.
The problem is, this is what I've told you though, like, it's almost boring talking about it, isn't it? Because the solutions and the problems are all so self-evident to anybody who's got two brain cells to rub together. It's almost boring. It's why people like us, like when you meet in the pub, you talk about like football and what you've seen on the telly and that, because this stuff's like so prosaic. It's dull to talk about. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows the US functions after a fashion and the UK doesn't. Because of that, did you see the video of that big black bloke who was thinking he was Tommy 10 bollocks, going up to the coppers going, yeah, come on, yeah. And one of them just gassed him in the face and then ragged him to the floor by his dreadlocks.
Yes.
Did you see that video? Because that's what happens. So they have law and order. And Mizzy would never grab anyone's dog. He certainly wouldn't walk into anybody's house. You know for a fact it wouldn't happen. Because he knows before he got his scrawny ass within 10 foot of my couch, he'd have 15 fucking holes in him. So it doesn't happen.
Right.
It's ludicrous.
Even the twins touched on it. What do you call them twins? The Hodge
twins.
Oh, yeah.
They touched on it. I think they showed a clip, and it was a young black fella, and he had a petrol canister, and it was poured over this guy's car.
Seen it.
And it wasn't petrol, it was water. But he was heating them.
Yeah.
When he smelt it like, but he sent straight out of the car.
Yeah. He says to him, he goes, "You're a dumb motherfucker. You nearly got yourself shot."
I know. It's, as I said, it's self-evident.
Did you see
how
quick that brash boy changed though when that gun? He was like, "No, sir, this is the water in this gun." He went all proper nerdy, didn't he?
Yeah.
It wasn't all that street talk all of a sudden.
They had attacked the street, and it was a woman in a wee like sports car. It looked like a wee sports car anyway. And they're jumping on the roof and the bonnet and this, that, and the other. And then she's trying to get out to calm them down. And then they just start on her. It's like fucking unbelievable. And there's only 14% in America are of that persuasion. And there's only 14% in Britain are of that persuasion.
I know.
Yet they're responsible for 80% of the crime.
Minority rule. I was in the pub last night talking to a couple. They were both Democrats. I love talking politics in the bar, trying to convert people, And they were both Democrats and saying, "Oh, we hated Trump and that." And I said, "Listen, though, right?" I said, honestly, I think when I first got my citizenship, I registered myself as a Democrat, and I've never got around to changing it because it requires administration. So I think even I'm a registered Democrat. Obviously, I don't vote for them. But I told them, I was like, you must understand, though, that away from all of these culture war issues, the simple fact is, even if you're a socially liberal person, you must realise that the law and order stuff is probably the single biggest quality of life issue. And I said, I fully understand people not liking Trump. I understand that. And I said, but don't you think when we've got into this game where you have to oppose what your opponent stands for and you have to disagree whatever your opponent stands for, regardless of the issue, don't you understand that the Democrats have fell into this trap? So now, because the right have gone in on crime and homelessness and illegal immigration, their default stance is it's all good. They say we need to sort out the homeless problem, and the Democrats say, no, we don't. No, we don't. And I was saying, like,
problem?
yeah, and I was saying, do you honestly not think it's a problem? And they were like, no, it definitely is. And this is what I'm saying, like, every one of them, unless you meet someone who's got purple hair and a coach ball through the tongue, they fucking know. All the Democrats know, and they all say, yeah, it definitely is. Like, I was like, it's a kitchen table issue. The idea that you can't, in San Francisco or Los Angeles, for example, a few of the places that are failing in the US, not like the entire country, bang on, but some of the places that are failing here, the idea that your daughter or your wife can't walk to school or walk to work without getting accosted by masturbating homeless men, right, is shocking. And as soon as you bring this up to dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, they go, yeah, I do know. You know, they're all getting on board with it. It's one of the single biggest issues, and it's all linked to this.
There's a thing that ties all of those places together, isn't it? They're all Democrat right?
Cities. Yeah, but because
Democrat mayors, Democrat governors, Democrat officials, from the top to the bottom.
Well, think about it logically. Because the loony left throw money at problems, thinking that'll fix them, they always have done. That's why the NHS is a black hole. They import 1 million people every year, and their only answer is, we just need to give the NHS more money. It's a black hole. Every single year of the last 20, the NHS's funding's gone up. They go, the Tories have cut the NHS. Look at the numbers. Every year from the last 20, we've sank extra billions into the NHS. It's not a numbers issue. It's a usage issue. So the Democrats are like the
usage and wastage.
Yeah, and when they see a problem, they throw money at it. So when they have a load of hobos in LA, the thick twat mayor throws money at it. He goes, we just need to give them more money. So all he's doing there is incentivizing basically all the hobos within 1,000 miles of Los Angeles are fucking panhandling until they've got enough money to get on a bus and go to LA. It's drawing them in like a tractor beam, and it's the same in San Francisco. And it's related to the immigration issue, isn't it? Because that's why they're all coming to England.
Have you seen, it was on Twitter there, and your man's walking down the street with a camera, and it's just tent after tent after tent after tent after tent. He says, this isn't LA, this is Dublin.
Mm-hmm. Really? I haven't seen that. I didn't know Dublin was that bad. Well, I noticed it last time I was in London. When I went to London with my missus about 15 years ago, first time she'd ever been. No homeless people then. Hardly saw them. No, when I went back with her like last year, I fucking couldn't move for tents and scruffy bastards. It's shocking. But I'm saying because... Go on.
I sent that particular clip Ragz is talking about in Dublin to my very normie work colleagues, and they were absolutely... They had no idea this was going on. And they were sharing it with it. He was like, I shared it to friends in my group. None of them had a clue. That's an issue down in Dublin. People look like a tent city.
There was the one where this is like an elderly residential place, and they're all sort of late 50s, 60s, retired Irish folk. And they've opened up it used to be a leisure centre. And the Garda came in, strong-armed these old ladies out the road so they could bring in minibus after minibus after minibus of fighting age men. No women or children.
No.
And apparently they're the ones that don't get asylum and they're refused asylum are sleeping in the forests in what do you call the big park in Dublin?
Oh, I don't know.
There's a big park.
They're eating all the swans in England, aren't they?
Yeah, swans, all the carp, all the trout out of the rivers, out of the fisheries. I went fly fishing a couple of months ago, Matty, and lovely lake. There was a fly fishing lake and then a coarse fishing lake next to it. All the Eastern Europeans, you can buy like a 2-fish ticket for the day, which means you can take 2 fish home. The first 2 fish you catch, right? These cunts with a 2-fish ticket, he has to monitor it all now because he's caught them walking out with 12 fish and because it's going to go and freeze them and feed them. But he can't sustain a business like that. And they're all Eastern Europeans. People that do that. It's not the natives.
But it wasn't the Eastern Europeans that done the sheep in England, was it? The lambs.
We know who that was. It was Harry. The thing is, right, this is all self-evident as well, isn't it? The fetishization of the poor by people like Owen Jones. They wrote that book, Chavs.
Gary Lineker.
Yeah. And what every working class person knows is that you basically don't get white collar criminals spilling out onto the streets ever. Like, your quality of life issues are caused by poor people, and people that are poor and working class, like us three, normal working class people. We can say it without rancor because we are them. We know that if you go to a council estate, of course, 70% of them are good people because these are all normal people. But the shitbags come from council estates because the poorest, the ones whose parents are just pissed all day and don't put any effort in. And they're the ones who we say get dragged up, and the kids are all little bastards and they terrorise the fucking neighbourhood. And they're all the ones who cause all the chew. And everyone who's normal and working class knows that it's inexorably linked to your income. It is. But middle-class arseholes won't dare say because they don't want to be accused of being what they are, which is people that despise the poor. So they live in a fantasy land and tell everyone, write books about it. Oh, yeah, they're all fantastic people, but secretly they hate you and they want nothing to do with you. But what they don't realise is it is those people that create problems. So when you set up your immigration process, whereby 98% of your immigrants are broke-ass poor people, you're getting the worst people. You don't get middle-class assholes with degrees from good colleges kicking fuck out of people in the street for no reason, robbing fish. It's what scruffy bastards do. But the middle class, the liberal elite twats won't talk about it because they don't want to be accused of what they are, which is people that hate the poor. Actual working class people don't mind saying, yeah, they do come from our background, but they're not the majority. But that's where they come from. It's poor people. White-collar criminals are like Bernie Madoff. 9 out of 10 people in jail are kicking fuck out of people, robbing every cunt, burgling, smackheads, stabbing, raping. They're not fucking, white-collar twats doing a bit of mortgage fraud. It's arseholes. And we exclusively import scruffy bastards. Of course we're going to have problems like this. Owen Jones isn't taking the piss out of the 2-fish fucking rule, is he? He's going to Waitrose. But I think that's the crux of the problem. Do you know what I mean? It's like how I've said to you, they can't fix the problem with the fraud for the veteran system over here because nobody will criticise the military. And I can because I was one. So I'll say, well, it looks to me like 9 out of 10 people getting money for PTSD and all these fucking welfare things. It's just welfare fraud, and they won't fix the problem because they don't want to be accused of hating the military. That's the real crux of the issue that's assailing the West now, is that the liberal elites that rule the world never want to be accused of it because that's what they are.
Yeah, you could never accuse someone of faking their PTSD if they've been involved in sort of combat,
you can't.
right?
Yeah,
but
over here, I worked with the veterans. They used to come and do the archery, and there was one refused. What is it you call it? Is it war pension?
Yeah,
he had lost both his legs below the knees, and he was deemed unfit for work, and he was disallowed.
It's criminal, and this is why that happens, because there's so many people taking the piss. They have to try and scrutinise it, and they end up scrutinising the people who deserve it, and then giving the money to people who take the piss. I know loads of people who take the piss out here, but I honestly think that's the single biggest issue we've got. Is none of these problems will get fixed because the people that are supposed to be fixing them are terrified, cowardly, and won't. They're afraid to fix it because they are what they're trying to avoid being named as. So if you had a working class prime minister who's actually from a fucking council estate, he'd get up and say, loads of these scruffy bastards are taking the piss out of us, and I'm not having it where someone goes from cradle to grave in Middlesbrough for fucking 45 years without ever paying a single penny in tax, and they're a grandparent when they're fucking 38 because the shitbag kids have shitbag kids. Nobody will fix it. And it's what's assailing us in every problem. The race issue won't get fixed because these fucking people are terrified cowards who won't call a spade a spade. And we're just totally toothless. Like I said, that's why I'm black-pilled. We're completely out of ideas. We're led by total cowards, and we will not get a problem fixed until, like I said, I always say, we say that we like a prevention more than a cure, but we don't do preventions because we're led by cowards. We only do cures. So it has to get 10 times worse. Everyone will start kicking off, and then it'll get fixed. But suck it up until then, Because we don't do preventions, we just do cures.
I was watching GB News today, and they were talking about Rishi Sunak and the immigration and bringing people in for work and stuff. And it turns out that these new students coming in, there's I can't remember how many 100,000 it was, and they're allowed to bring family members. They bring in £4 billion a year in revenue for Britain. But all the non-British workers send money home all the time. And that equates to something like 40 billion out of the British economy. Gone. You couldn't make this stuff up. And when it comes to the bring your relatives, Matt, who brought that in?
Tories, wasn't it?
Boris Johnson.
Oh,
Boris Johnson,
okay.
yeah.
What's wrong?
Tories. Yeah, I was listening. Did you listen to some of the speeches at a Tory conference the other day?
What, the national conservatism?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like an offshoot, meant to be right-leaning conservative.
And they were saying, "Oh, this is like that's just a bandage when they're bringing in more and more people. Just a band-aid. It's a plaster." And they know what the problem is. The need to essentially, when you've got as many people in Britain doing fuck all, NEETs, dollies, career dollies, or people swinging the lead on disability, we've literally got, conservative estimate, we've got 5 million people in the UK doing absolutely jack shit, right? When you've got 5 million people doing jack shit, your immigration should be zero at this point. I've always said nothing wrong with immigrants we need, but it's, well, not zero, right? Because there's going to be, we do need engineers and physicists and biochemists and shit, but it should be in the tens of thousands. Until we get a couple of million of these people, NEETs, dollies, career welfare recipients into work, what are we importing people for? It's ludicrous. There's millions of British people who need to work.
That was the discussion on GB News today. They actually said the government figures as 5 million unemployed British people. But
is it all driven?
It's all
is it all driven by companies just wanting to pay absolute bottom line for their labour, though? Is it, you know?
That's
it's
part
always
of it.
benefited the wealthy, hasn't it?
Rather than training up British apprentices and for engineering jobs and physicist jobs and all stuff like that. Is it a case of that? They don't want to pay the money that that someone deserves.
I was told fire, gentlemen. They've just advertised, the British government have just advertised for foreign teachers, and they're going to pay them £10,000 more than a British teacher.
Brilliant. Love that.
Yeah, but it's like these European doctors and consultants that fly over for a weekend as on overtime on ridiculous like £200 an hour consulting. Yeah. It's well worth flying over for that for the weekend, isn't it? There's a jumper.
There's a military hospital down in Dublin where one of my mates had to go for surgery, and the guy that came to do the spinal surgery on him was Swedish, but brilliant English. No, you could understand every word he says. I went into the casualty there about 6 miles up the road, and I couldn't understand a word the man said to me. The wee nurse had to literally translate to me what he was saying. You know.
Loads of point in that, isn't there? Fuck me. How are they meant to diagnose you when they can't speak a bastard word of the Queen's? And far be it for someone from fucking Middlesbrough to criticise your English, but Jesus Christ. Like I told you, everything is totally fucked. It's not, to me, some bloke was massively ragged with me on Twitter the other day because I was having a go at England, you know what I mean? He took it the wrong way. He's obviously a right-wing bloke. And he was like, America, like slagging off America and that. Just because I was saying, I feel lucky to be here by comparison. Like when I go back to England now, I don't want to sound like one of those stereotypical wanker expats who does it. You know, everyone knows someone like that. When my mate went to Singapore 20 years ago, he's like, I can't believe you still live in England. You know, one of those wankers. But objectively, it's fucked. The UK now, it's fucked. And like I've said to you, how does it get better? It only gets worse. Like if we're letting in 1 million people every year, At what point does it get better? If you think it's going to get better, you are deluding yourself. Because we let in 1 million shitbags every year, and a couple of 100,000 people that aren't shitbags leave because they go, fucking hell. Think about it. Do you think, it's net? It's net 650,000 because we let over 1 million in, but like 400,000 left. The 400,000 that left weren't toothless fucking flea-bitten chavs and smackheads, were they?
No,
people like
doctors, nurses, engineers, going to places like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, where they can get triple the money that they get here.
Yeah, or people like me.
It's a total brain drain of the British people.
So it's getting worse every year. And then this is what I tell people when they get angry about it. I was like, I'm not trying to make you angry. I'm not showing off. I'm angry because it's my country. It's where I was spent the first 35 years of my life. So I'm a patriot through and through. I've been conditioned to be so. But you have to face the mirror. What, are you suddenly going to get to 2024 and all of a sudden millions of shitbags are going to disappear and millions of fucking tax-paying hard workers are going to materialize in fucking these big cities? It's fucked. And it's only going to get worse. And next year you're going to get another 1 million shitbags. And the year after that, you're going to get another 1 million shitbags. And it's going to keep going until everything is totally fucked. And you won't be able to find a school for your kids. And you won't be able to get a doctor's appointment. You won't be able to see a dentist. And everywhere's full. And all the roads are full. And there's queues for everything. And there's shit in the streets. And then you'll be on Twitter having a pop at me because I'm saying, yeah, England's a bit fucked.
Here's one for you then, Booty. The whole great replacement theory thing that you can't talk about because it's a white supremacist ideal and stuff, yeah? Even normie outreaches now. Do you ever watch anything from the New Culture Forum?
Sometimes, yeah. Peter
even that big Rafe guy now is doing videos about how there'll be a white minority in Britain by 2050. So that's even quicker than the projection of the professor, David Coleman, the professor from Oxford, who did the demographic.
It's going to be way quicker. Way quicker. Just use your own eyes and ears, like I always tell you. Don't ever just rely on lies, damn lies, and statistics. Just use your eyes and your ears. Like when I got on a bus last year. I got on a bus last year to go see my brother, and I couldn't believe it. Like literally 8 out of 10 on the bus were foreign. Like there's no fucking English people there anymore. Go to London. You might as well be in Karachi.
Well, did you see? It was a Lotus Eaters segment, and Callum had been doing some trawling through the census data maps, and he actually found areas in London that are 0% British people.
Of course they are. It's like
that's insane.
Dangerfield, where's he from?
Dartford.
Cockney, innit? Cockney.
Dartford. And he said he come back for his mother's funeral, and he'd only been away, was it 7 years? He's in Cambodia. And he says, but Cambodia's completely different. Homogenous society, there isn't any, but there's maybe a few straggler white people. The Chinese moved in for a while and built a casino, seaside resort, and then the arse fell out of it and it's dilapidated now. But he says when he got back to London, he says when he got all his mother's stuff, affairs arranged, house and this, that, and the other, he says, I'm never going back. So it's not the same.
Fucking and how far have we fallen? Because Cambodia, when I was in school, one of my mates was a little skinny bastard with massive teeth. We used to call him Scruffy Cambodian. He looked like he was never ate a fucking meal in his life. We used to call him the Scruffy Cambodian.
It's very interesting.
Now, the fucking Cambodians look down on us.
Yeah. Well, Dangerfield talks about it. Cambodia is essentially an ethno-state. And pretty much the Khmer people are like 98% of the people. So you have a bond between almost the entire country. Of course. And again, it's only controversial if you're an idiot. The real problem is always the same because people are stupid, or the people that run the world are, and they distill everything down to hate. Think about it. It's the same with every issue, which is why nothing gets fixed. When you say any type of opposition to trans athletes or children transitioning, or any of these common sense issues that a normal 50-year-old woman, who's not keeping a finger on the pulse, and you explained it to her, she'd go, you what? Like, just think you're mental, that it's even up for discussion, right? As soon as you bring up, they equate it to hate. So they say, you don't want the trans to be in the women's weightlifting competition because you hate them.
or you don't want the kids to transition because you hate them, and you said, no, it's got nothing to do with disliking anyone. It's simple common sense. And it's exactly the same with that type of stuff. I'm not saying that the reason there's an issue is because I hate people that happen to be foreign. I'm saying it's an issue because human nature, we're an evolved primate and we like to stick to our own. So if you feel like you've got a sense of community and you know your neighbours and you've got something in common with all the people around you, you'll be happy. And it's just the way it is. It doesn't mean I dislike people that are from anywhere else. Why do you even need to make it racial? I don't dislike people from France or Spain. But I'd be happier living in a state where every single person speaks the same language, listens to the same music, and has the same culture, than surrounded by 50 fucking Spaniards who I can't talk to. It's not about hatred; it's about common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, you made a good point once, Booty, on one of your streams about how your in-group preference radiate outwards. So you've got your family in your house, right, and then it's your friends and your neighbours. Then it's your street, right? There's a street that you're loyal to. Then it's the estate that you grew up in. Then it's the town that you're in. Then it's your county. Then it's your country. Then it's your continent. Like it radiate outwards, right?
Yeah, totally logical, isn't it? It doesn't mean you dislike anybody else. It's just common fucking sense.
Matt, over the last couple of weeks, I've been watching the Fox News and a couple of them other ones, and some states were up in arms because the state had banned trans athletes in college sports.
Yeah.
And then you get this one story where this young girl finished fourth because a trans athlete finished in front of them, and she doesn't get the scholarship that she needed to go and do what she wanted to do. Now they're complaining that the governing body of the Olympics has, for the next Olympics, has banned all trans stuff. You can't compete if you're trans in the Olympics.
Yeah.
But it seems to be shoved. Is it more Democrat states probably that should shoved down their throats? Than the Republican states.
Well, we've had something a little more close to home with that whole trans thing, because the British Cycling Association, after a 9-month inquiry, I don't know why this would take 9 months, have banned trans athletes from competing in the women's sports. But they are open to compete as dressed as a woman with all the fucking bells and frills in the men's sports. They're fully able to compete in that, dressed as how they want, right? With the tits and
the threatening bits.
with their hairy axe wound.
Yeah. Stab wound in a gorilla's back. So basically, right, this is another example of what we're talking about, where there's no common sense and the state's completely incompetent, because, again, I'm certain that 90% of the public are in agreement that trans women who used to be men shouldn't be allowed to compete in women's sports. It must be 90%, at least. Basically everybody over the age of 30 who's not a brainwashed communist. If you sat down with any middle-aged fucking arsehole who knows nothing about anything and said, do you think a bloke should be able to do a few surgeries and get some pills down him and then go into women's weightlifting? Nobody says, yeah, that's a good idea. Nobody says that.
Well, you could just do a straw poll on the street you live in, right?
Nobody would say, it's a great idea. So that's what I'm saying. The tail's wagging the dog, isn't it? You've got loony activists, lefty middle-class arseholes who are all in a position of power because they all went to the posh universities, and they're imposing a ludicrous, childish ideology on a general public that has absolutely no interest in any of it.
Yeah.
But they're in charge, and we're living in authoritarian times, so you just have to let them get on with it, and eventually it'll all kick off.
Did you see
it's the regime that amplifies these tiny. When you talk about minorities, they're a minority of a minority. These people,
tiny.
You know, it's such a. If you break down the percentages, but the amplification they get. I mean, look at the Bud Light farce and Target. Well deserved boycott because of these woke. It's usually, if you usually find there's a woman behind the pulling the strings of all of this bullshit as well. You don't usually find that it's a man to blame. I've noticed.
Yeah, well, the problem with that is, right, the more empathic, so as soon as you fucking introduce a bit of feels into it, they all fucking shit the bed. And that is, again, self-evidently true. You can call me you said that thing, therefore you hate all women. I mean, how fucking illogical is that? Everybody's got a wife or a sister and a mother and a granny. But you say something like that and they go, oh my God, that means you want to gas all the women. It's fucking mental. But the fact of the matter is, women are a lot more touchy-feely and emotionally intelligent than men are. Because, I mean, it's not entirely negative. It's a compliment in a way. They're emotionally intelligent. They're empathic in a way that we aren't, because we're fucking barbarians. And we see someone crying and we scratch our balls and go, fucking sad bastard. It's the way we are. But that's what women do. And as soon as the fucking turn the waterworks on, logic goes out the window. Not for all of them, again, because old Thatcher was squared away, but for a higher percentage of men than men. And the best example of that was Alan Kudry, when the little boy washed up on the beach. So the activist press fucking took loads of photos of him, the dead kid, and put it all over the media for 3 days. And Merkel, a week earlier, was saying, oh yeah, immigration's failed, it's totally failed, let the European Union down. And then they put a dead kid on the front of a few newspapers and she went, let them all in. Do you remember? That's literally what happened. Yeah. It was like, oh, it's failing. It's
2015, totally right?
Yeah.
2015.
Everyone was, oh my God, it's a total failure, it's wrecking Europe. Oh, look, a dead baby, let them all in. All of them.
How
many?
Every
all of them.
single one
10
of
million. 10 million hairy ass blokes because of one fucking dead baby. Well, I mean, they must have gang raped fucking 50,000 kids since they got in. So we've lost by 49,999. You little fat German fucking shit for brains.
Do you know what? You know Silvio Berlusconi, the old bunga bunga.
Yeah.
Do you know what he once called Angela Merkel? He called her an unfuckable lard ass.
Good. He's gone up a few notches in my estimation, Silvio. But I mean, it's self-evidently true that, again, it doesn't mean you hate women. And some women are more reasonable and less emotionally fucking incontinent than some men. But if you're generalising, looking at the numbers, the data, that's the way it is. Soon as some throw a few dead babies about and they'll fucking just bend like a wet Kit Kat. Yeah, do what you want then.
Do you not remember the one? It was the BBC, and they were in a dinghy, and these people are all in life jackets, and they're all like this here, help me, and they didn't think the camera was still rolling, and one of the guys with the life jackets in the water stood up. Do you remember that one? That was a couple of years ago.
I do remember that. Yeah. It's just,
and then there was the one where this poor dead child, and horrific images. 2 months later, there's a guy at Dover holding up the same baby, holding up the same kid. You know,
like props to them, aren't they?
Well, it's like Pallywood, isn't it? Have you seen all them Pallywood videos? They call it Pallywood. It's like Palestinian propaganda about the Al-42s, and it is just pure fiction, like total lies. They'll be like, oh, look at this kid shot by the Israelis, and then they're like, and cut. And the kid gets up, like, dusts off the stone and walks off, like, drinking a bottle of water. It's like Pallywood. It's all part of the agenda, isn't it?
But that goes on. Everyone does that. They're not unique, are they?
No. There was one on Sky. It must have been 2 years ago, and I wasn't too sure if it was to do with the so-called virus. But they had all these bodies laid out at this airport in bags. And it's horrific, and they're zooming in and this, that, and the other. Next minute, you see the hand coming out from underneath the bag.
Yeah, they all start unzipping themselves and getting out. That was a pandemic thing, wasn't it?
Was it? It wasn't. I can't remember, but that was.
Yeah, that was more stuff from China. You remember the first videos from that, Matty, where there would just be a bloke walking along, or you just go like a comedy, like he'd take a breath.
Funny as fuck. Yeah, and they were welding them inside the flats, weren't they?
But intellectual people bought that. They were like, oh my God, people are just dropping down dead instantly. They actually bought into that. You think clever people that you know from, as being personalities in certain different areas of life. Sam Harris, what he said about things.
Oh, yeah.
I never really liked him anyway, just because of the way I found him very droll. I know he's like this pseudo-intellectual and stuff, but his takes on the Hunter Biden laptop and the stolen election and the pandemic were three of the worst takes I've ever heard by a human being. And this bloke earns his money from his brains.
It's all part of growing up, isn't it? Because I did like him. I liked him a lot. When I really first started getting into YouTube about fucking 15 years ago, probably longer. How long? I'm sure I got mega into it early on. If I'd have started doing this, 15 years ago before fucking Sousa got me by the short and curly, I'm certain I could have been in the millions by this point. But it must have been 17 or 18 years ago when I first got into it, because I just stopped watching television and I was always watching like atheist videos and Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and Dan Dennett and all of those ones at Four Horsemen.
Four Horsemen, yeah.
And I really looked up to Sam Harris, but it's part of getting old, isn't it? Because when I was 26, I really looked up to him, and now I'm 43. I'm like, oh yeah, he's just another fucking idiot who you think's clever because he uses big words.
I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth here. I'm only saying what I've heard you say more than one occasion. But you've done a journey with the whole like psychopaths being in charge of the world thing, haven't you?
Yeah, massively.
Like, you said when you first started talking to Chris Doyle, you'd sort of like, you'd let it slide and that, and not really take it too seriously. But no, you mentioned it quite a few times now. Yeah,
it's because it seems like about half of people just take a position and then they haven't got the strength of mind to change their mind. And with me, I've always been like a logic person. I'm willing to change my mind about anything at all. I've said it about religion, right? Like I'm not religious, but if I went to bed like they all do in the fucking Bible, and the next thing I'm having a full in-depth conversation with God, well, when I wake up, I'll change my fucking mind. You know what I mean? It seems like a lot of people don't, and that's just what I try and push is critical thinking. Like I've always considered myself a liberal, and I still agree with the tenets of liberalism. That if it doesn't affect somebody else and it doesn't do any harm, people should be free to do whatever they want. And the reason I've always felt that what is now called like almost we get tied with the same brush, like we're woke or something. That's always been a logical position to me, because I feel as if the old religious lot, the ones that turned me off religion so much when I was a young man, would have irrational reasons for doing things. Like they'd say you shouldn't do whatever, drinking, gambling, vice, all the fun stuff, basically, because my religion says it's a bad idea. And I'd say, yeah, but that's not good enough for me, because there's loads of religions, like everyone disagrees about how we got here and what the rules are. So I don't have an ideological axiogram with anything. I don't have an ideological axiogram with religion. I've moved on that a lot. I just always question. Everything has to be logical. And I still feel that I am a liberal person, but on almost every issue now, I'm always getting drawn in by the right because they're just more logical at this point. You can disagree with Trump the way he talks, but his actual policy issues are based on cynical pragmatism, which to me seems to be the only thing that works. Yeah. I think wokeism is fundamentally a childish ideology because it's based off this idea that that you can, as long as you try really hard, you can fix every problem. And people like me, and I'm sure you too, because we're a bit older, you're a cynic. You say if things can go wrong, they will go wrong. I feel as if the whole modern left is pure childish idealism. Like everyone we let in will be great. They'll enrich our culture. They never go, a couple of them are going to be rapists. Like, just look at the statistics. Do you know what I mean? That's not irrational to say. I'm not saying they're bad people. Look at the statistics. If you get 100 fighting age men, some of them are going to be criminals. And that doesn't enter their head. Right? And obviously it's irrational if you go too far the other way, where someone's like, oh yeah, all the foreigners, they're all fucking scum. But again, that's usually a straw man, right? Because the vast majority of people don't say that. Right-wingers don't assume all immigrants are bad, and they don't say that. This is a fictional position that nobody holds. The woke just say that you think that. Ragnar thinks all people from Pakistan want to finger your kids. No, he doesn't. Nobody thinks that. They're just inventing a position that doesn't exist. The actual position is... It's
but Ragnar, Ragnar also has a very evolved, hardwired pattern recognition. So there's that too.
There's down, which is a wee village outside Dublin, and they put these guys in this hotel.
Is that Santry?
I can't mind. They were only there a day when they had burst into the kitchen, lifted all the cutlery, we'll just say cutlery, and started a mass fight in the middle of the street amongst themselves.
Yeah. Well, isn't that self-evident as well?
Do you remember, just quickly, Matty, before you go on, do you remember there was a video of some left-wing NGO kind of minion thing, and she was saying, well, what do you expect if you put all these different cultures together in a hotel? And we're like, kind of proving our point.
Yeah. Welcome.
You said the quiet part out loud, mate, lady.
Yeah. And that's just why I'm just filled with contempt for these people. It genuinely is contempt, because I feel as if you're a grown-up and you don't think of the pros and the cons for something, you're just worthy of scorn and contempt and derision. Because I feel like you do that with every single thing you do in life. If you're a normal, fully functioning adult, you do it with everything, don't you? Everything. What should we have for dinner? You do a risk assessment in your head. You go, I could just eat cheeseburgers. That'll positive, it'll taste good. Negative, it's very bad for me. You do it with everything. You do a quick risk assessment in your brain with everything you do when you're a functional adult. Shall we go to Florida? Yeah, it'll be way better than going to the fucking Scunthorpe, but we'll spend more. So you can afford it. What's ups and downs? And ideologues don't do ups and downs. So they just instantly go, letting out 100,000 blokes. That'll be good. And I'm like, what? Have you got a 2-digit IQ? If you don't go, some of it'll be good and some of it'll be fucking awful. And like I always tell you, that's why I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, because none of this stuff is complicated or difficult or revolutionary thinking. It is basic, grown-up positives and negatives, and they're incapable of doing it. So it staggers me that these people are in positions of authority. It staggers me.
There's my analogy all the time is a barrel of apples. I'll give you a barrel of apples, and I tell you that 5 of them apples is poison. Are you going to eat an apple out of that barrel? No, you're not. Same with immigration. How many kids have to be diddled or stabbed and all? 10, 20, 30? How's about 1 million over the past 40 years?
I know.
Yeah. So,
another reason, I think this is a good argument. Another reason to be very right wing on immigration is because the harm is so much more difficult to fix than the positives. And if you think about this in life, I'm stealing this from David Gemmell, who was such a good writer, and he always talked about how if it takes months of effort and patience for a sculptor to make a magnificent sculpture like David, right? It takes months of work, but it takes a barbarian with a hammer 10 seconds to destroy it. And when they talk about immigration, and again, I'm logical, I'm not saying they're all bad, but think about it logically, because harm is so much more difficult to rectify than positivity. You should be working on a factor like 50 about how much worse it is. Because just like with the marble analogy, if you get 100 blokes over and 20 of them are really, really good and do good things and pay the taxes, but 2 of them fist fuck 8-year-olds, that's way, way, way worse than the 20 guys who are paying the taxes. You're talking about lives that get completely ruined. It's even why the crime statistics look better than they actually are. Peter Hitchens has talked about this, because now people are surviving injuries that 10 years ago would have killed you. And we've got such good medical technology now that people that would have died survive. So the politicians go, hey, murder rate down again. But there's 10,000 people who are critically fucked. And we've all had injuries at our age. You never get over them. You never get over them. If some bloke twats the fuck out of me with a hammer and breaks 18 of my bones, I'm going to be fucked for the rest of my life. And because they never do that logical sort of balancing act, they really underplay the harm that comes from negatives from immigration. So if even only 1 in 100 rapes someone or stabs someone or batters someone with a hammer or burgles an old lady and shits on a fucking kitchen floor, the harm that one does is fucking magnified 20 times fold to the goods that some will do. So if anything, we should be far more strict, even if you're being logical and saying some of them are going to be good and some of them are going to be bad, because harm is a lot more harmful than good does good, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So I think even if you're not having a very pessimistic view and you're saying, yeah, a lot of these immigrants are going to be good, you still need to be mega, mega, mega strict with them and do really stringent background checks. Because if 1 in 100 is a horrible cunt, the harm that person does to dozens of innocent people and ruins their lives forever is immeasurable. And I think that is inherently logical. And at no point there have I said, oh yeah, nearly everybody that comes in is horrible, because loads of them will be good, but so what? Do you know what I mean? So what if loads of them are good?
There's a history debunked that done a video a couple of weeks ago. This is about the population increase. And then he went on to the houses, and you know the way London and all these cities, and they have these red brick houses. Same set of thing in the Dangerfield left them 2 up, 2 down. And they had this long back garden. And if you look on Google Maps, you can actually look into the gardens. And there's block buildings with double glazing. That's not a shed.
I've seen exposés. I've seen exposés on that. They're living in a garage, with a little stove burner and all that. And it's it's slumlords, isn't it? Essentially, you've got people making money off that.
You can be guaranteed them people aren't working and paying taxes. They're doing that. There's that documentary, and the counterfeit goods they were sewing together like Nikes and all these different things. So, and then people were getting, what was it? Your man said £1.75 an hour.
Winner. Well, I mean, you don't pay hardly any tax when you're poorly paid as well either. Like, you know, all the lies, they always lie and say immigration's like a net benefit of all this money, and it isn't. Like, if you actually adjust it accurately, it costs us tens of billions every year.
They don't have high-paying jobs, so they don't meet the threshold.
Even the ones that are doing well don't pay a lot of tax because they're not brain surgeons. So even the ones that do well, we can do without them. It's not like there's some sort of fucking paragon of tax-paying virtue. It's total bollocks. And again, anyone with half a brain fucking knows it. It's just nonsense.
Government figures, over 40-something% of a certain demographic, the followers of Alan Snack Bar don't actually work for them.
40%, yeah.
It's 90% of their women don't work.
They don't let the women go out to work, do they?
And it costs the British taxpayer £120 billion a year in benefits.
Probably. It's got to be in the hundreds of billions. Like I said, at this point, our immigration should be in the fucking 10,000 or something. Everyone, 10,000 a year, and every one of them should be like a fucking brain surgeon or a neuroscientist or some shit, because we've got at least 5 million fit and healthy people, neat dollies, who need to be working. It's good for them to force them to work. It's good to get out the house, socialise, do something productive. We need to get it fucking fixed. And they won't talk about it because they don't like the poor and they don't want anybody to say so. You need a scruffy bastard from Middlesbrough to be the Prime Minister who will happily stand in front of a toothless, flea-bitten chav and say, get your fat ass out the house and do some fucking work, you scruffy twat. Because no politician's going to do it. And you need to be cruel to be kind, don't you? Another old adage that is fundamentally true. You need to be cruel to be kind. You're not doing people a favour when you trap them on welfare the whole life. You're not doing Mizzy a favour when you treat him with kid gloves. So he keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And the next thing, he gets 25 years and he's getting raped every day by fucking Randy Ron in the shower. You're not doing these people a favour. But you can't tell a fucking woke silly bastard any of it, can you?
Yeah, then I'm going to change the subject, not slightly, completely now. Now, you did a very interesting, it was interesting video in the week about our friend Pip Schofield, and it seems there's even more revelations coming out now about, like, he's known this boy since he's 10. So I mean, that's
text grooming.
Saying that he'd get him a place in television and all that, So, you made a really interesting point. If he'd have been horsing one into a 17-year-old intern girl, a 17-year-old teenage girl, right? He'd have been his career would have been over by then, 3 years ago. Lambasted. He would have been his poor wife giving interviews in OK Magazine and all stuff like that. But because he was a 17-year-old boy, like you say,
he'd get prosecuted. That is grooming. He met the cunt when he was like 12 or something.
Yeah, he was 12.
Being a boy when you're 12, being his best mate for 4 years, and then him sucking you off when he's 16, just because it's against the law, i.e., you're trying to get off on a technicality, doesn't mean you haven't broke the law. They get him on a grooming charge there.
It was very weird, very weirdly worded, where he said he said the relationship
unethical,
was unwise,
but not illegal.
Yeah.
You dirty.
What? So you waited till he was fucking the minute it went.
The minute.
Did you see?
The minute he blew the candles out on his 16th birthday cake, and then he was fucking plumbing him the fucking 10 seconds later. He bent him over the table, stuck his head in his cake, and fucking smashed him.
Today's the day, little man.
Yeah, it's totally unethical. If he was a girl, he'd be in fucking jail.
But what about the people that knew all this? You know, you had Ruth and Eamon that raised concerns, and they were fucking shit canned.
No, Eamon Holmes. Have you seen Eamon Holmes' latest tweet?
Yeah, scathing.
He's going to be revealing all soon. He said, apparently.
Yeah,
what he knows. So.
Good.
The thing is, though, right? It's all come out now. It's all coming out in the wash, but no one's really surprised, are they? No one's going, "Oh, I thought that Philip was a good little grey-haired man."
Diamond geezer. No, but the woke aren't they? Because this is why the grooming gangs got away with it. This is why it keeps happening. Because the woke are so illogical that they think if you tick a box on the victim pyramid, that therefore you're a good person. And I was making this point to my wife the other day. Basically, I'm the pro-gay person in the room because I actually give them some fucking agency and the benefit of the doubt. And I think gay people are almost identical to me, except for one tiny little thing, and that's the fancy people that are the same sex as them, and that's it. So when I meet a gay person, in no way do I judge them. I think they're as capable as me, as intelligent as me, and as likely to be an arsehole as me. But these woke fucking degenerates are so incapable of critical, logical thinking that when someone tells them they're gay, they go, "Oh, he's a moral person." It's like it's got nothing to do with it. And normal people have given them more, it's like the soft bigotry of low expectations with the race thing. It's like insulting. Wouldn't it be insulting if I was a gay man and I'd be exactly the same as I am now, my personality would be identical, I'd just love sucking jizz out of people's arseholes on a weekend, right? That'd be exactly the same other than that. And when I met someone and they went, "Oh, you must be a good person because you're gay," I'd be fucking offended. I'd be like, "No, I could be a complete wanker. I just happen to be gay." Like, so what I'm saying is people like us, the ones that they call homophobic, are not even slightly. And we even give them more credit than they do because they're fucking cringingly pandering to them, being like as if Philip Schofield has to be a good person because he's gay. It's ludicrous on the face of it.
Do you think there's any sort of correlation between the fact that 2 months earlier his brother got sent away for nonce a kid? Do you think there might be some sort of like the abuse becoming the abuser's situation going on?
It wasn't 2 months. It wasn't 2 months. It was fucking like 4 days.
4 days.
No, it was 2 months ago that he went down, though, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was only days before he.
No, he went down on his 16th birthday. Everybody knows that. He went down 2 seconds after he blew the candles out. Remember?
So if you ever think about this, you were saying about like if you'd have got in at the right time, but Susan, why don't you rebrand yourself as the Randy Bootneck, right? And like be all like lispy and very sort of. You'll have 1 million subs next week.
Yeah, I know. I'll never get banned then. Hello, sailor.
There's a question. His brother was sent down for 12 years for nonching 3 young fellas.
The apple doesn't fall far from the fucking tree in the Schofield family, does it?
Oh, look.
It appears not.
It's 2 a.m.
Oh, so shit, it's 9 o'clock, lads. I have to go. I've got a flight to catch at 12.
All right, well, listen, you're off to Salt Lake City to go and mingle with the Mormons, all right? Don't. I'm
going to go and pick up another 4 or 5 wives.
Here, if you're shopping, remember go to Target and get yourself one of them
Tuck out swimwear, right?
Yeah. I'll go to Target and get myself a thong with a picture of fucking Ricky Martin on the front. Yeah, aimed at 8-year-olds. Yeah. So anyway, I could talk to you two, but I was just having a crack with shit. But unfortunately,
Well, listen, we'll remind you again. But last Sunday of June, if you're about.
Yeah. Just like I said, text me the weekend before, and I'll clear my schedule.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Have a really good trip. How long are you away for?
4 days. I'll be back Wednesday night.
Have a fantastic time. So you'll be streaming sort of towards the tail end of the week?
Probably Thursday, yeah.
Okay, mate. Have a great time with your missus.
Right, thanks for having me. See you soon, lads.
You're welcome, mate. See you later. Bye-bye. Right. So you wanted to play something, didn't you? I'm not going to stay on for much longer, but you wanted to play a video, didn't you?
Oh, no. It was just when he was here. It's just he hasn't been arrested again. He was arrested yesterday. We're talking about Jizzy. He had been evening or afternoon. He had been arrested yesterday and released, and he was back out this morning again, breaking into the driver's cab of the train.
He's like, since he's been given this platform on the news, on mainstream media, he probably feels like he's absolutely untouchable, and it's people they want to see. I saw that in the chat. Rory, and I knew as soon as Ragz read it, you'd get that reaction. I mainly, whenever I ring him up, I mainly open up with that line. Who did it?
Well, we were supposed to do another thing today. Damn good show.
Yeah. Oh, we got a damn good show for y'all.
Damn good. Right, folks.
No, Baz, my missus picked it. My missus picked this wallpaper.
Oh,
thank you for everyone who's noticed and commented on it and said that I'm giving millennial woes. Was it millennial woes or?
No, it's
Chief Moody. Chief Moody
for
his money.
So,
yeah.
There's either lovely or Tipadians in. Special K jumped in, Tic Tac jumped in.
Yeah, thank you for everyone who joined in today at our rather unusual early time of 4 o'clock.
We'll be back to our normal time next week.
Yep.
7. I have no idea who we have on.
Guest to be announced, TBA. Mm-hmm. No, we're not giving away a truck, but unless it's fucking little dinky toy one. Maybe we will do a competition to give away a truck, hey Ragz? But when they receive it, it will be Eddie Stobart collectible.
Wallpaper nationalism. If Rory Herbert's in the chat, if you want to come on, mate, hit me up on Telegram. And I've set a stream up for us for next week with Rory Herbert because he's another really, really interesting dude. Yeah, I've never been on a stream with Rory. So, Rory, if you're up for that next week, mate, just let us know. Or in the next few weeks. Connor will be on, I think, some point in June. Toller, yes, Toller. Connor's back for part 4, I think. Yeah. Part 4. Yeah, so we're getting some... and that Woodlander stream last week, just got to say, I rung up you the next day, didn't I? So I'm still buzzing about that stream. I thought it was one of the best streams that we've had. It was just... it was quite the opposite. It's quite paradoxical to the stream today because Matty is black pilled to fuck, isn't he? So it's doom, doom, doom. Whereas Woodlander's very an optimist and he's got answers and solutions. And I think people do like that. The sort of colourful language and the topic of today's stream, I may just set it to private so we don't get another strike. You could do, Ragz. That's entirely up to you. But nothing controversial was spoken about. So back to that. Here, I pointed out a fact yesterday and got a 24-hour ban. This is true. We are on enemy territory on YouTube. So that's just a fact. I do have to say thank you to Dawn. I have to say thank you to Mousecat and Raymond Piper. Raymond Piper is always donating, and Dawn, which I really, really appreciate. So I'd like to thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Well, Ragz really appreciate it. It just helps him
upgrade his studio slowly and get there together. I think he wants to get a green screen, don't you, mate? At some point.
It helped me buy this aluminium wheelchair. Oh, just for a funny, right here. Oh, please, a funny.
Play a funny, and then I'm going to make a move.
All right, everyone. So it's Friday night. I'm getting ready to go out. I'm feeling tired, but before I go out, I got to pregame. And the only way I pregame is with an ice cold Bud Light. So good. Happy Friday.
All right, folks. Have a good evening. If you're out and about, the sun's splitting the stones here at the moment. It's 12 degrees, so that's basically tropical here. We will catch you all next week.